Hello and welcome to yet another DG-CAD Revit Building 8.1 A to Z video. We're in part 5 here, and we've done our lesson 29, which is our introduction to families, and now we're at our lesson 30. We're going to start with annotation families, and the family we're going to create here is a very interesting one because it combines some geometry with an annotation type family, but also has some little math and formulas all built in. So this particular lesson is a value in a lot of different ways. So we're going to talk and work with annotation families. And the thing about an annotation family is it will adapt to the scale. So when we plan it out here, we're drawing it to plotted units as far as how big, and we're going to draw a slope triangle here. And what it is we're going to put this in. The only thing you're going to see is the 12, the triangle, and then this number, which will be dynamic, a 612 or an 812 slope, and you'll be able to change that number, and then this angle will update. So it's parametric that way. So we're going to do that. I'm going to start by loading and then demoing the completed family, which I'm going to do in just a second, and then we're going to go through and create one from scratch. And note that we start with an annotation family template, how reference planes work, and how the origin, which is the kind of the 0, 0 base point of the object, is controlled. I'd also like to say thanks to my friend Steve Barnicat for providing this handy little family over to me, and providing that. And pretty much every architect, I think, or any architectural or even structural people are all going to need this little annotation symbol at one point. So let's go in and have a look in our Revit here. What I'm going to do is I already have one of those made, and it's not in my drawing. So I'm going to start by saying, okay, I need an annotation symbol. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over and I'm going to pick component. And then with component, I'm not going to save this, and I'm going to say load. And then I can go browsing, and by default it goes to the Imperial Library, and I can go in here to annotations and go grab different annotation symbols, and you can go get RFA files off of different websites that are available, and you can grab different annotation symbols. Okay, I'm just going to go over here to different location and into my Revit families, and in my Revit families I've got Steve's slope triangle that he sent me over here, and I'm going to open that up, and I'm going to say I'm loading that. Now it's giving me a problem here because it thinks I'm trying to load the last family that I used, which was a desk, and it's saying desks cannot be loaded in an elevational view, and I'm in an elevational view. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to hit escape, and now what it's done is it's loaded it into here. I could have dragged that from Explorer as well into my drawing. Under here, under families, under annotations, okay, slope triangle, there it is right there. Okay, so it does come in, but it comes in a little bit sloppy. So then the main thing is it will be in here. Okay, and that'll happen with other families as well. You'll drag it in and it'll give you an error because it's trying to bring in the wrong family here, or depending on the view it might not be visible. So that's just a little lesson in there when you're bringing families in. Now I can bring this slope triangle in and I can drop it in here, and this is the finished product. Basically we can put that in here, and I can click on here, and now I can click the properties of that, and I can go to the slope and I can change it to be 8. Notice the rise and the run and the half rise are grayed out. Okay, I would have to go in here and pick edit. No, they wouldn't even be in there, of course, so because they're formulated. We'll see that. So I can change that to be 8. In fact, I think that roof is a 912, so I'm going to go in here and make that be 9. And hit OK, and it'll change to be a 912. So that's all this family does. It's very handy. Revit doesn't come with one, unfortunately. I can click on that, and I can go over to here, and I can mirror it as well if I want. Oops, wrong way. I could do it that way, or I could take that and mirror it again the other way using this edge. Okay, and then you can just take these and do whatever you want with them. So that's all it really is. And notice the 9 is staying centered. Okay, if I change this, click on this and change the slope again to be 14, and hit OK, it's going to always center itself. The 12 is fixed, and this length of this object is fixed. So that this length is fixed, and this number is fixed. This length is a function of the number I put in over here, okay, the slope, okay, and not only that, but it's an annotation symbol. So if I change my scale factor to be, you know, 1/8 of an inch instead of 1/4 of an inch, okay, and I zoom in, that's going to get bigger. Now maybe it's too big in its own, this isn't a very big drawing, and I'm going to also show you how we can, and I think I have made this, say the symbol is too big, we can change that in a snap. So I'm going to go back to that and change that back to be, you know, 1/4 inch, and you can see that, okay. So I have established within the family how long I want this to be in plotted units. When I put this on a sheet and I print it out and I measure this, I want it to be a certain length long, and that's part of the family, and then this is a product of that. Okay, so let's go just have a look. Well, let's go and then create. So we're going to go now, we're going to make our own from scratch, and we'll bring it in here and compare it to this. So we'll go File, and I'm going to say New. I'm going to say Annotation Symbol. No, sorry, Family. My mistake. Annotation symbol is like a tag. And inside of my annotation family, I'm going to use, go down here to Annotations folder. Okay, you can note where that is. Okay, all the way down into here. And I'm just going to say Generic Annotation. Okay, there's different templates. Okay, call out, door tag, grid head, level head, multi. So room tag, sectional head, all these are all, that's how things are showing up the size they are. So I'm just going to make a generic annotation family. I'm going to go inside here. There's a note here right off the bat that says change family category to set the appropriate annotation type. We'll see that. Insertion point is at the intersection of the reference planes, and delete this note before using. So just some. So that's where our origin is going to be. We can move this around to wherever we want, and it would basically move the base point of the drawing. Now it says change family category to set the appropriate annotation type. This is annotation. Set the appropriate annotation type. So if I go into settings here and I hit family categories, it's saying it's a generic annotation. That's actually the one I want. If I wanted to change it again, I could, but I want it to be a generic annotation. I don't want it to be any other annotation type. And so then I can just delete this note and I can move on over here. So now I've sketched this out. Let's go back to my document here. I've sketched this out and I've done the my homework, and the interesting way this works is this. I'm going to set up these parameters inside of here, and the way it's going to work is that this is always going to be 12, and I'm going to fix this, and it's going to be called the run, and I want it to be a 1/2 inch when I print it. At plotted scale, I want this to be a 1/2 inch, and it represents the number 12. Okay. Then I'm going to have the slope. I'm going to plug in the number, for instance, a number 6, 612. So that's a 612 slope. So think of slope here not as an angle, but as the vertical number. So the slope is a 612 slope. And then these numbers are dynamic, and what happens is I'm going to change this number. I'm going to make a new parameter called slope, and it's just a number that I plug in, and it's going to be whatever number I want when I go to change it. I was changing this before. Then I'm going to have something called the run, and the run is going to simply equal a 1/2 inch, which means I'm going to have a parameter, and I'm going to dimension from here to here and say that is a 1/2 inch. Which is fine. And then I say, okay, the rise. Now this number in here, what it has to be is it's going to be the slope. This number divided by the 12 and then multiplied times the 1/2 inch. Because again, I'm going to plug in a number like 612. Well, I don't want this length to be 6 units high because this is only 1/2 inch long because it's plotted units versus numerical units. So this vertical actual dimension, this rise right here, is a product of saying 6 divided by 12, which is, 6 divided by 12 is 0.5, and then 0.5 times 1/2 inch gives me the 1/4 inch. So slope divided by 12 times the run gives me this real distance in plotted units. And then finally, half rise is to center this. I always want this, so I'm going to anchor, or I'm going to group actually the word slope here and that parameter to this reference line, and this reference line is going to be anchored always to be halfway between here and here. So I've done my math, I've sketched this out, and you can see it's a little more work than what you might expect to create that dynamic slope angle. Okay, so now let's go back to our Revit and let's build that on. So we can go in here. The first thing we're going to do is go into our settings. Our category is fine. We're going to go in here and pick family types. Okay, or we can just hit family types right over here. So I'm going to hit family types over here. Inside of here, I'm not going to make a new type. I'm going to make new parameters. Okay, I'm going to add a parameter in here, and this parameter is going to be called slope. And I'm going to go say, what discipline is it? Well, it's not structural, it's common. There's only two choices there. When I create this parameter, where do I want to group it as far as when I go to the properties of the object? I want to group it under the dimensions. So this is going to show up under dimensions when I right click and check the properties of that family, that triangle. And what type of information do I want it to be? I want it to be just a number. Okay, the other ones are all going to be lengths. This is just a number because it's just an integer. Doesn't really represent any length of anything because we're not going to tie it in that way. We'll see how that works. Now, is this a type or an instance? Do I want to be able to, when I insert these and copy them around the drawing, do I want to be able to change this in each individual triangle? Yes, I do. If I don't, I go to here, and then it will. If I change one, it'll change them all. Okay, I only want it to change that one triangle. The other, I might have more than one slope in my drawing. So then that's it. Slope, under dimensions, it's a number and it's a instance. So I hit OK and that's been made. Good. Now I go down, I make another parameter and I call this one run. And then it's also common. It's going to be grouped under dimensions and it is going to be a length. Okay. Also an instance. Okay, and I'm going to hit OK. And then I'm going to go in, I'm going to make another one, I'm going to call it rise. Rise is common, it's going to be grouped under dimensions, and it's also going to be a length because it's going to be measured in length. So then it's an instance. Again, if you make the mistake and do a type, you can't go back and change it. You have to delete it and create it again. So if I forget to do something here and I hit OK, you have to go back inside of here. You have to remove it and then add it back in again. So I'm going to hit OK, and there I've got at least my first three. We'll come back and do the half rise later. Now we can get into the formulas. Well, I'm going to go in and say slope. My example slope is going to be the number 6. My run, I've already decided, is going to be half an inch. Okay, remember back in here, okay, my run is going to be a half an inch. And then the 12 is just a number that sits there. It's not even intelligent at all. Okay, so we're going to go back to our Revit. And then I can say, okay, now the rise, this is the only one that's a little bit tricky. The rise is the word slope, and you have to spell it right, divided by 12, which is the 6 over 12, and then multiply times the run. Okay, and that way, by changing this number globally, will change the whole size of the triangle. Okay, so watch. So that looks good. So I'm going to hit apply, and I'm going to hit OK. And now I'm going to actually start to draw some of my geometry. So I'm going to draw some reference lines in. So I'm going to draw a reference line right down over here to represent the run, and it doesn't really matter where I put it. Okay, that's going to be the run, and then this is going to be the rise. And it's as easy now as going in, and I'm going to, and then I'm going to now put a dimension on. Right, I'm going to go to dimension, dimension from here to here, place it over here. Put a dimension from here to here, place it over here. Okay, now I'm going to go in and I'm going to take this, and I'm going to say, okay, you are the run. And I know I've already said the run is a half an inch. Okay, you are the rise. Okay, which is a 1/4 inch, and it automatically makes it that distance. Okay, that's because my slope is set to be 6. Now if I go back to my family types, I can flex this right now by going in here and changing this to be a 3 and hitting apply, and this is going to update because that's a 3 and 12. And then I'm going to go into here and make this a 9, click out, hit apply, and I can see that to start with my geometry is working. This isn't changing, right? And again, it's going to be the right size, so I'm going to go back and make that be 6 again, and then hit apply and hit OK. So I've flexed my control geometry. Now I can start to add in some of the actual line work, and this is as easy as going in. I'm going to draw some lines, and what I don't want to do is put the chain on, because after I draw this line from here to here, oops, it's not the right line. I don't want to draw a line. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to pick on here, and as I draw this, I'm going to stop. I want to click lock and lock on there, okay? And I'm going to go from here to here, and I'm going to lock that on this line as well. Then I'm going to click on here to here, and then I'm going to make sure that and it's all locking, okay, because the other ones were. Now the key was, if I had chain turned on and I just draw lines around here, I'm not going to get that same opportunity to do the locking. So in this case, it's good to just draw the lines individually and then lock them, and then you'll be able to click on them after and see that everything is locked and tied to these components. Okay, now all I need is just a regular piece of text for my number 12 in here. And then I can change, the size of whatever the text is inside of here. And then click out. Grab that piece of text, move it over, place it, nudge it into place as you want. And now over here I'm going to put a label. Okay, these are parameters that were applied to dimensions, but now I'm going to go over here and I'm going to create a label instead of a piece of text. This could be something you use in a title block as well. I'm going to just pick a point and it's going to say, what do you want in there? I'm going to use the slope parameter and hit OK, and it's going to put the word slope. Then I'm going to click on that object, and I'm going to bring that in a little bit, and I'm going to make sure that it is right justified, because I want it to go to the left, right? I want it right justified. Click, move it down, nudge it into place. Okay, save it. Now, have I done a save as yet? I don't even think I have. Okay, I'm going to call this DG triangle, our slope, and save it. I'm going to overwrite the other one. Okay, and now I'm going to flex it by going in. I'm going to just move this over here again, and I'm going to go into my family types, and I'm going to change this to be 8. Hit apply. It's going to move everything, but my word slope isn't changing, and that's not going to change until I publish this into a project. Okay, so that really isn't any different than it was before. Hit apply, hit OK. Okay, now I'm just going to bring that into a drawing just to see how it behaves. Now, these objects in here, this is a label, so it will print the value. This is just a piece of text that will show up. These are lines which will show up. The reference planes will not show up, and these parameters in here and dimensions will not show up. So all you're going to see is this. And again, the base point is going to be here because that's where those two lines cross. If I click on this line and click on this line, and you go to the properties, you will see it says, oops, I didn't grab the right line. Click on here, check the properties, it says defines origin. Okay, if I click on this line and I go to the properties, it says define origin. Okay, so when two lines that define origin cross, that basically forms the intersection of that origin. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say load to project, and then it's going to bump me into this project over here, and I'm going to go to an elevational view. And in my elevational view, I'll go to maybe my south view. There's those other ones that I placed in there. Now that I've published this into this drawing, I'm going to go to, there it is, my DG slope in my families folder, right? I'm going to drag this in. I'm going to place it down here, and there's my new one, my 612. And I can click on there, and I can change that to be 812. And it works, but last problem, of course, 1212 is that my number isn't being centered. Okay, and also it's a bit larger. So watch, I'm going to go back to here now. I'm just going to say edit family, and it's going to say open it. Yes, I'm already in it, but it doesn't matter anyway. Now maybe I want the overall size of the triangle to be a different size. I'm going to go back into here, and I'm going to see, you know what, I only want that to be a 1/4 inch in size, and then hit apply. Okay, and now I need to re-anchor that. Okay, I'm not sure why that didn't get anchored to begin with, but that should have done what I wanted. Okay, let's save this. Oh, hit the help menu there. Let's grab this and nudge that over, because I'm just saying my triangle is physically too big. And a lot of times this is what you do with the existing content, is the fact that things aren't the right size. So you go in and tweak them like this. So I'm going to save this, and I'm going to load it and push it out to my project. It's going to say there's been an update. I'm going to hit yes, and it's going to change the size of it. Okay, still the 1212, but because I changed the run length there in that parameter, this is going to be smaller, and to me that might be the right size. It's personal, maybe something in between, right? Go back into here, edit the family, open it up, go and grab that parameter again and say okay, you know, change that to be something else. Everything else will update. Hit apply, hit OK. Okay, now I'm just going to undo this, because I like the bigger one, just for my own purpose. And then I'm going to put a center line inside of here. So I'm going to create another reference line, and I'm just going to I can start it from the midpoint there. It doesn't matter. I'm going to place it. Now I'm going to make a new parameter, and it's going to be called half rise. I'm going to add it in. It's going to be called half rise. It's grouped under dimensions. It is a length, and it is an instance parameter, and I hit OK. Hit apply, hit OK. Now I'm going to put a dimension from here to here, place it, lock it. Actually, I don't lock it. And then I'm going to take that and turn that into half rise, right? And I need to put a little formula, of course, in that. So I'm going to go back into here. Half rise is, guess what? It is the rise divided by 2. Nice little formulas. You can get very, very creative in here and creating all kinds of, we're not even into the massing stuff yet. Hit apply, hit OK. Okay, let's save this. Load it into our project. It says to redo it. I'm going to hit OK. And what I forgot to do there, let's just go back and edit that. That didn't move. I needed to group those together. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that reference line. Doesn't really matter. I'm going to pull that through there. And I am not sure how to anchor that text to that, that label to that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to group them. So I'm going to click on this piece of text right here, and I use my control button, and I'm going to click on that reference line, and I'm going to go up to here, and I'm going to say group. And it groups them together. Okay, now I'm going to save it. And now I'm going to push that out to my project. I'm going to say yes. And now the 12 is going to be centered. Okay, I'm going to go back into here. Remember, under dimensions, remember when I say category, when I create those parameters, okay, slope is 12, slope is 4. Hit OK, hit OK. There's my 412 slope, and it's always going to be centered. So I forgot about grouping that label to that reference line. And just a couple things here. Quickest way to get back to that family is just go in and edit it. Reference line has a start and an end. Okay, just to talk about the difference between reference plane. Reference plane is more or less infinite. Okay, it is cropped off by the crop region, but it is basically an infinite plane, and can be in, sloped in different angles, etc. So and can show up in 3D. Reference lines are just in that view, and also have a start and an end. Okay, so reference plane's a little bit more powerful, a little bit more can populate out further than what reference lines will do. So now let's just go back and do a recap here on what we did there. Okay, first thing that we have to do, the process doesn't change throughout these lessons. First thing you have to do is sketch it out on paper. Sketch it out, do the math, figure out how things have to be. This was a tricky one again because the actual numbers you were putting in and the size of the object were different based on, plotted units. So do the math, make the associations or algorithms and the formulas, right? So work it all out, work out the formulas, the algorithm, and then create the parameters. Then you go into Revit, you create the parameters inside of here, you add a parameter. And then you make it an instance or a type, depending on how you want it to behave. You add the formulas in afterwards, okay? And then you draw the reference geometry. Then you go back and you actually draw the reference geometry, which are the green lines, solid green lines for reference lines and dashed for reference plane. So then you create the reference line and reference planes. That's the next thing you do. Then you dimension the reference geometry. You throw in just regular old dimensions inside of there, and then you take those dimensions and you turn those dimensions into labels, which are basically based on your parameters you created back inside of here. Then you go in and hit your family type and you flex the model and watch and change the numbers and see how these things update, okay, and behave, and you might have to go in and make some changes. Then you actually draw the mass elements or the line work that will create, what you want to see in the actual drawing, because the control stuff doesn't show up, right? So draw the masses in the line work. Then align and lock the line work to the reference planes and lines. So then you have to lock everything down, and there's different techniques on doing that. Using the align command is a very good one, especially with massing. And then again, watch out when you draw your lines. If you use a chain, you won't get the same opportunity. And then you basically flex it, and then you go out and push it out to the model, to the project. Load to the project, try it out, go back and forth, and then you can go back and hit your edit family button and go back in and go back and forth. Okay, so that's our first lesson on creating annotation families, a really good one with a bit of formulas in there as well.